Welcome to the Alsco Uniforms It Pays to Keep Clean podcast. Join us as we spend time with Alsco Chief Operating Officer Jim Kearns to discuss this season's theme, Growth is Our Water. In this podcast, we'll talk about observations from the field, celebrate big wins, and identify industry best practices. I'm your host, Dana Craig. Let's get started. Good afternoon, Jim. How are you?
I'm doing well. Dana, how are you?
I'm doing okay. This is our last episode with you of the podcast for the year. Isn't that amazing?
It's amazing.
I think it's really amazing. So we're sitting here in December of 2024. We started back in February of 2024, and we'll do a little bit of a recap as we go further in the podcast. But let's get started with your visits first.
Right.
So you've made your last branch visits for the year.
Right.
You traveled, if I'm correct, to Jacksonville, Atlanta, and Charleston.
That's correct.
Right?
Yep.
Okay. Dennis Chandler is our general manager there. And
Right.
Did you spend much time with RSRs on the dock? Did you go straight into a meeting? What was
So we
the
did
focus?
our normal dock routine. We went out and talked to the guys on the dock, and that was good. We went into what was a pretty small conference room and met with these guys. So yeah, we had a good visit. Two of the things that jumped out at me in Jacksonville was we had an intern there who was playing a key role in their service, or in their safety committee. And so it was interesting to hear her experience there. And then she also talked, and participated in our meeting. And so I thought that was terrific to see such a young person do so well there. And then he had an AGM that was part of the MTP program that happened to come from Charleston, and he played a big role in the meeting as well. And so it was terrific to see these people contribute at being young people and contributing at such a high level.
So it sounds to like Dennis, then Jacksonville in general, has been a big supporter of our internship program and our management training program.
They have,
Yeah.
for sure.
Okay.
They have.
Which is kind of nice for the people at the branch and also for those people to have the opportunity. The other thing that you mentioned that I thought was interesting was that the intern there happens to be Bobby Strickland, general
Yep.
manager of Charleston,
Yep.
which we'll talk about in a little bit, happens to be his daughter. So
Yep, I told
She's-
Bobby he should be very proud. She was doing a terrific job
yeah,
there.
that's great to hear. And then what else about Jacksonville kind of stood out to you?
They had and I mentioned this to you before, they have a pink dryer
Yeah.
there, which there's not too many pink dryers in our system. And so that was one thing that jumped out to me. I mean, people sign this dryer, so it's a great way to provide team morale and
Kind of
motivation.
engagement.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I had, after you told me that, I recalled, I wasn't able to find it. I think it's a ways back that we had a insider article about the pink dryer, and it was kind of
Oh, okay.
around breast cancer awareness.
Exactly,
And, yeah, but they've
exactly.
kept it pink to their credit, and so it sounds like they're
Yep.
using that. So after Jacksonville, it was on to Atlanta, one of
Yep.
our very large facilities,
Yep.
both in just physical footprint of that plant, but also the area that they service and the amount of revenue that they bring in. So what was your experience like in Atlanta?
Atlanta, when we showed up there, we didn't see that many people out on the dock. I mean, given the geography that they service, people are in and out there. But we did have a really good tour of the facility, and it is a very large facility.
Yes.
They're getting a new tunnel put in there, so a lot of new equipment being invested there. But it's a big facility, and the facility looked great. The 5S in Atlanta looked great. The 5S in Jacksonville looked great as well. But so it's a very big facility. We had a great tour there.
And it sounds like you were quite impressed with some of their Spindle numbers too, and just how they utilize Spindle, which is perhaps how we had imagined it,
Right.
and yet it hasn't taken hold in quite the same way in all of our branches.
Yeah, the metrics that Atlanta is producing are very impressive, right? They're top in our company, and so you imagine a large production force. They came up with a very innovative bonus program tied to Spindle performance, and 70 some odd % of their employees are receiving bonuses or incentives under this plan
That's fabulous.
based on Spindle work. They have low employee turnover, particularly in production, putting up some great PPOH numbers. So inside the plant, they're doing a lot of things right. Also, they're growing the plant. I mean, the sales team there is doing a terrific job. It's a great market, so we're seeing a lot of new business going in there. We're seeing a lot of great work in the production facility. The one area where they can improve on is in the lost business area.
Right. That's probably true for all of us.
That's true for all of us. But if Atlanta gets that right, they're going to be hard to keep up with. Right? They are. It's a big operation. They can produce a lot of poundage there. They can service a lot of customers, and there's a lot of opportunity for growth. Right. Capacity is not an issue in Atlanta. And they've got they're efficient there, and so if we can do a better job at keeping customers in Atlanta, continue the sales effort, Atlanta's going to do well in the future.
It also sounds like in both Jacksonville and Atlanta, from the lost customer retention side, there seemed to be quite a bit of conversation about out of business. Can you talk about that for a bit?
Yeah, it's come up in every branch. Yeah. The last few branches that we've visited, that there seems to be a lot of out of business, and so that's something that we're facing in a lot of locations. So we have to be mindful of that, and we have to make sure that we're doing whatever it takes to help these customers continue in business, providing them solutions or a way that they can keep using our products and services. But yeah, it's an issue.
And for the most part, that's in the food and beverage industry, I would assume, right? So it's kind of a natural argument to try to, if that is a growing trend that we may see for the next few years, particularly in certain markets, and it's an argument for the target market pivot type of business that we've been talking about,
particularly
for a long
in the
time.
Touristy areas. Like there's a touristy part of Jacksonville that they service that's more susceptible to that in and out of business.
And then so it was on to Charleston.
On to Charleston, yeah.
Yeah, and tell us a little bit about that visit.
Charleston was a good visit. We had a great visit on the dock. A lot of RSRs were there, so we got to see a lot of people, and they wanted to talk. So we had good conversations with many of them. I talked to one of them that was servicing the account that we were eating at that night. So some good conversations. In fact, I think it was at Charleston where Bob Steiner got invited to go for a route ride with one of the drivers, and he politely turned them down, but I thought that was great.
Maybe next time.
But I thought it was great. He was willing to approach the CEO of the company, and so that was good.
So, and presumably proud to have him. Like, had Bob said yes, then oh dear, you're gonna have to see how I service the customers.
These guys were a pretty confident bunch. I think he would have gladly taken him out for a ride.
Yeah.
So it was great.
And I think that's where you mentioned too that they had a really good safety message.
Yeah, they had one of the best safety messages that I think I have heard throughout the company. And what made this so good was that we actually had a RSR come into our growth meeting and talk about the issue that he encountered. And what had happened to him is that in his step man, they normally put mats down the middle of it, and there was some moisture. It was a little slick. The mat slipped out, and he fell on his back, and it was a pretty serious injury.
Yeah.
But it was great to hear him come in and talk about it, and talk about the things that we could do to help prevent it. Tim Stever happened to be there, so we talked about if we can get some of these grip surfaces put on in our trucks, maybe it would prevent a slip and fall. And some of these can be serious, and so it was really interesting to hear it from a guy that actually had been involved in an accident that
it's personal,
very personal,
and personal to him, and he's telling his own story. Nothing's more powerful
and
than that.
It really resonates with you when you hear it in that way. So
and then it sounds too you wanted to share, and you shared yesterday in your second half of the year address about the 2 p.m. huddle that they did. It sounds like did you witness that, or they were just talking about that?
No, I didn't witness it, but I heard about it, and it really caught my attention, right? Bobby Strickland said that 2 o'clock every day he had a Zoom meeting with I believe they have 2 or 3 DMs, service manager, production manager from time to time, they would get together and have a conversation about, what they were seeing, what they were hearing on their customer visits, what the RSRs were saying, anything about the day, and what they could do to, solve customers' problems. It was pretty good. And I was, I asked him a couple times, really every day, you have this every day at 2:00? And he says every day. And it allows them to, as I indicated yesterday, it allows them to respond to our customers with a sense of urgency. And it really, for me, demonstrated a GM that is focused on his customers. He's focused outside of the branch. He is in tune with what's going on.
Well, that consistent type of approach, whether it's through Zoom or some other mechanism, and hopefully other branches do something similar, but that really allows you to stay on top rather than always playing from behind.
Right.
It's easier to keep up than it is to catch up. So that vehicle allows them to do that.
You are listening to the It Pays to Keep Clean podcast, brought to you by Alsco Uniforms, the worldwide leader in hygienically clean laundry services for uniforms, linen, floor mats, and restroom supplies. Need first aid services for your industrial, restaurant, or healthcare business? Alsco Uniforms has you covered.
So we're at the end of the year, very, very close to it. So, it's been a big year, a tough year, a lot of change, but I want to only just end on good news.
Okay.
And so I kind of went through some of the Wednesday wins that the ROC team puts together and pulled out a few things over the last few weeks that I thought were interesting, fun, or good news.
Right.
So one, and I think you're familiar with this, in Reno they expanded some routes in anticipation of a large hospital account with Renown Health that was just installed within the last few weeks here. And it sounds, so far, actually, I have a debrief call after we finish with this about how that installation went. But it sounds like so far they've really pulled it off very cleanly, no pun intended, and excited to see what, how they move forward with that account.
So, I think, some of these large accounts like this one, like Haas, we're hitting it out of the park when it comes to our first impressions and making these installs. So, hats off to the teams. They're getting it organized. They're exceeding customer expectations. And so I, too, have heard that that install has gone well.
Yeah.
So
and we probably had about half a dozen of those kinds of accounts this year that were large, really required a lot of resources and a lot of focus. And I think what you would say, which again is something that you mentioned in your address yesterday, we all want hats off and good news at the beginning of an installation, because how you begin is often how you finish. But the next step then is to ensure that we are improving profitability in these accounts, and that we don't let not only service lapse on this good first impression, but also that our focus there doesn't diminish looking at our other customers
and
as
I think
well.
the first impression, first install on even our small counts should go just as well, right?
That's right.
We should celebrate them. They should get the same attention, same amount of detail, all of that, because it's just as important to make a great impression, with a small customer as it is with a large customer.
Of course.
All customers are important, but boy, we are doing a good job on some of these accounts.
Yeah, it's
sure.
fun to see. It's great teamwork. So in Montreal, they had 2 major account signings, and the thing that was exciting about this was that it was actually an RSR who signed the accounts. So that's kind of right in that sweet spot where we want RSRs to be, and I'll have more good RSR news here in just a second. Toronto had 3-year renewals, which again we love to see. Not only do we want to renew accounts, but renew them for as long a period of time as we can. And that was with 2 accounts, Bistro Grande and Independent Auto. Hyannis, which was part of our Churchill acquisition, they signed a new account with 3 more expected within the next 90 days, all of the 3 more locations. Virginia Beach renewed a large restaurant group, the Sodell Group, for 60 months. Love to see 60 months. And then we had the Quality Linen acquisition, which was a smaller acquisition in North Carolina here just within the last couple of weeks. But it brings on about 300 new customers, mostly that will be serviced by the Charlotte branch. But we put a little bit of that business into Durham, and I think one account into Raleigh. So it'll be interesting to see how that one goes. So I have a few questions for you to kind of end of the year. You're sitting around your Norman Rockwell dining room table asking questions. So my question for you is, what was your favorite branch visit this year and why?
Okay, favorite branch visit and why? I'm going to say LA.
Okay.
Okay, so LA was one of the 3 branches we visited on my first trip out. And, we went on it's been a while since I've been in LA. We were there, obviously early in the morning. We went out on the dock. And I'll get to why it was my favorite, but, we actually took a tour, went up on the roof. I had never been up on
Did you see the Hollywood sign?
I did see the Hollywood sign.
Okay.
The view from on top of the roof at the LA
good.
plant is something that everybody should have an opportunity to see. But what I really liked about the branch and why it gave me such great hope going forward was, this is kind of the first time out, on the dock, walking around, talking to people, and, everybody was a little nervous, me included. But I climbed on a truck with a guy and I said, "Hey, what do you do at Alsco?" And he says, "I help Alsco grow the business." And I thought, yeah, right answer, right off the bat. And he too was installing an account that he had just signed.
Oh, great.
And this might be where, he was the talk of the dock that day. Everybody was talking about this RSR and the new account that he signed. And so I thought that was terrific. And I was told he wasn't set up or, a plant or anything like that. But yeah.
It's not even on the payroll, right?
Yeah. No. But look,
it is Hollywood after all.
It is Hollywood, but that was terrific. First branch, we've got RSRs that are, growing the business.
And really in tune with with the messaging.
And it was contagious, right? Everybody out there was proud of him. They were rooting for him. So it was great. So
Second question, which was your most surprising visit?
Toronto.
Okay.
Toronto would be my most surprising visit. I'd been to Toronto years and years and years ago, and a couple things surprised me. One, how big Toronto is, right? I just couldn't get over how big the city is. 4th largest city in North America, and it just hadn't really, something I hadn't really focused on. I was so pleasantly surprised by Dave Sweeney and his. He was all in on growth, and look, as far as one of the best meetings on the dock, that happened in Toronto. They set up tables, they brought coffee and donuts. These RSRs, stood around. We had great conversation with them. Some new guys, some old guys. So it was great. And then when we got into the meeting, Dave had done a great analysis of the market, what the opportunities were, and you could just feel that his team was ready to grow the business. And he had there's a lot of opportunities there. We're going to put 2 regional sales managers there, and so we're really going to invest in the number of sales assets and take advantage of this great market. But I was so happy to see Dave so engaged and so
reinvigorated, really.
So that was great to see, and it was a surprise, a pleasant surprise. I was really excited about it.
Okay, so one last question, and then we open presents.
Oh, wow.
Which branch are you most excited to go back to in order to see their progress?
Well, I'm excited to go back to all of them at some day, and I'm going to say 2, not just 1. I know you said 1, but 2.
Some people don't follow instructions.
No.
Okay.
So I'm going to go back next year to Lanham.
Okay.
Lanham had put on a large new account as well, and everybody had heard about it. And look, they had some equipment issues, they had lots of issues there, and so I can't wait to get back to see how they settle that all in, right?
Well, they had management changes. They had new equipment come in. They had a huge account. It was a trifecta of change.
Yeah.
So that'd be great to
and they
see.
were running audibles. They were doing different things to make it through. And look, they, through it all, they maintained the level of service that the customer required. In fact, the customer made comments that they were impressed how we were able to. Use other facilities and really make sure that they were taken care of. But so the other branch that I will go back to, similar sort of situation as Billings. we have a new young manager there, and I have a lot of confidence that she can turn this place around. But it was my first trip to Billings, and look, it is like we said yesterday. I mean, it's in a rebuilding
it's
phase
a heavy
for sure,
lift.
and so they are kind of starting over in production, starting over in service. A lot to do there. But that plant in years past has been a great plant. It's been a profitable plant.
Sure.
It's been a growing plant. And so there's going to be some rebuilding that takes place there. But like Lanham and Billings, I have a lot of confidence in the general managers, the regional managers, their teams, that they can turn it around.
Yeah. So Jim, in honor of the holidays and in honor of finishing our first season of the podcast, I have a gift for you that you shouldn't be scared about.
So Dana, you didn't have to. You didn't have to.
But I think you'll get it once you open it too.
I'm slow, but hopefully I'll do better.
Just with unwrapping this.
Now, how do you get into this thing?
Do you see the name of the company too?
Nice Laundry.
Nice Laundry, yeah.
Okay. Look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that.
You may recall, I think on the first couple of episodes, and I'm sure our avid listeners will remember as well, you told a couple sock stories.
Yes.
And I toyed with the idea of getting our faces on them for you, like the ones that you saw in Anaheim. I know.
Exactly.
Or my dog's face would have been cute. But I just went for a nice monogram instead.
Very nice.
So,
thank you.
yeah.
Thank you. I have this will add to my collection of sock stories.
I know.
I had forgotten about the sock story in Anaheim, but that was the other reason that first visit was so
good.
So
I
memorable.
know.
Yeah.
I know.
Perfect.
Well, now
Perfect.
those you can wear those at least 3 of your visits.
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very nice.
So, Jim, as our last episode through the year for this year, and of course we'll be back in 2025, but we wanted to extend a sincere thank you to our podcast production team, and that includes Adam Potts, who acts as our video and sound engineer, makes us sound good, tries to make us look good. That's not his fault, though. Bobby Love, who gets us all posted and official on the different platforms and helps Adam out with other production areas. Tyler Tabola, who helps with the titles and episode descriptions and keeping me in line. And then Austin Maines and Trish Leishman kind of round out the group. So we want to thank them for their oversight and support. We also want to thank all of our listeners and subscribers. There's just so many of them, but for sticking with us this year, because we've kind of been making it up as we go along. But we're open to all kinds of feedback and ideas, so people are free to email me. And then we look forward to kind of continuing to improve as we move forward next year and next season.
Yeah, I would like to thank those people too. I mean, they've made this fun, so it's been great to work with each one of them. I'd also like to thank the other people that you've had on, Kathy Marshall, Tim Jones, Brad Cox. I mean, I've watched them and I thought they were terrific, so it's nice to see.
And we have more of those to release. So all of our national sales managers, sans the 2 new ones we just added, and then our regional managers as well. So
yeah, they're great to listen to, a lot of great content. So I really enjoy them, and I would encourage other people to continue to watch, not just the ones you and I do, but your other guests. So
sounds great. Well, thank you. And happy holidays to you and your family, and we'll see you in 2025.
Thank you. Same to you, Dana.
That's all for today's episode of the It Pays to Keep Clean podcast. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the world of Alsco uniforms, where we explore the growth and challenges in our industry. Tune in next time for more industry insights, growth strategies, and tales from the field. If you've enjoyed our time together, please leave us a rating and review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. If you want to learn more about our services, visit us at alsco.com. From all of us here at the It Pays to Keep Clean podcast at Alsco Uniforms, thank you for listening. Stay safe, stay clean, and we'll see you in the next episode.